Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cook the Book, where we take a wonderful recipe from my new cookbook, Treat Yourself Healthy, and I teach you guys how to make it. I'm excited about today's recipe. I'm excited because it is wonderfully simple, number one. In fact, it is so incredibly easy. It only needs 2 ingredients. Would you believe it? Just 2 ingredients. We're going to make the most incredible and pretty, I like to say, magical chocolate cake. Yes, 2 ingredients. We're going to make a cake. I'm going to teach you guys how to do it. It is so easy. It is so easy, but it made its way into the book because it was so easy, but it's also so incredibly delicious. So the recipe for this one is on page 302, which I'm just going to track down for you guys. Where are we? 302, and I literally call it the 2 ingredient chocolate cake. In fact, I invented this chocolate cake as a Valentine's gift for Mahei. I decided that the 2 of us needed a little bit of something romantic, and it is the perfect size actually for 2 people. So it's 2 ingredients for 2 people. It can't get any simpler than that. So the first thing that we need to do to make this cake is we need to talk about what those 2 ingredients are. And as you guys can see here, it is literally chocolate and eggs. That is it. You can make a cake with chocolate and eggs, but of course my chocolate is just not your ordinary chocolate, as you know. I have in my bowl here a chocolate that has no sugar, because of course I do things that are sugar-free. It has no sugar. It has no gluten, so it's gluten-free as well. This cake is completely gluten-free, and it has no dairy. So I do suggest that if you're looking for your own version of a gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free chocolate, you can either start, just turning on the cooktop, you can either start by going to your supermarket and seeing if they have anything available there. Some supermarkets do, some don't, but I actually buy mine online. And the trick to buying produce like this online is you want to put into Google, let Google do the searching for you. Put into Google vegan chocolate near me, which is pretty much what this is. So a vegan chocolate is going to be dairy free, of course, but also just make sure it's sugar free and gluten free. And the type of sweetener in this particular chocolate that I'm using, there's only 3 ingredients in this chocolate. There's erythritol, which you guys know is the sweetener, and it's completely natural. It's not an artificial sweetener. There is cocoa butter, and there is one other thing. Oh, cocoa syrup. That's all there is. So there's 3 ingredients in the chocolate that I buy online. I suggest that you do the same by, remember, vegan chocolate near me, and you'll get some options coming up. So in my little bowl here, I have 180 grams of my sugar-free, gluten-free, dairy-free chocolate. 180 grams is around about 6.3 ounces of chocolate. I am positioning that over a container or a pot of water. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to begin to melt my chocolate. So I'm going to be putting that, I don't want the base of the bowl to touch the water, so I've got about that much water in the base of my pot there. I'm going to bring that water to a simmer, and I've got obviously my chocolate in a heat-proof bowl, and that's just going to go along and very gently begin to melt for us, which is ideal. So that is happening. We can leave that. Let's now talk about our eggs. I'm using free-range organic eggs. I'm using large ones as well. You want to take yourself up 2 fairly large bowls, and we need to separate the eggs. So into one bowl, let's try to put, oh look at that, my shell broke straight away. How did I know that the attempt wasn't going to be that great? That's okay, because what you can do is just get rid of the shell. And if you had an accident, well, a unfortunate occurrence like I just had, the way to separate is just to pop that egg onto your hand, and then just transfer it between your hands. And as you're transferring it, you allow the whites to seep through. So that's one way of doing it. Perfect yolk, as you can see, goes in there. So let's see if we have better luck this time. You want to get a nice crack. It's always good to have a nice crack. And then, yeah, that's better. We're just going to transfer. Wow, did you see that big plop? That's what we're after. Transfer until all the white has dripped away. And we've got, once again, the perfect yolk goes in there. Third time's a charm. See if I can get it right. Nice crack. Right down the middle, if you can. Separate. Wonderful. And then transfer those eggs across. I know there's gadgets that you can buy to do this, but quite seriously, that is technique number one. And if you had, something go wrong, like with the first egg, then of course you put in your hand and then you transfer it from hand to hand. Just make sure that those are really, really clean hands. Coco, do we have a paper towel somewhere? Make sure they're clean hands. Now I've got eggy hands. Hopefully in a second they won't be too bad. Alright, you can see I've got steam coming out of my chocolate. I'm just going to turn that right down. I don't want it to melt too quickly. Thank you, Coco. Alright, there we go. Perfect. Don't want it to melt. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I do want it to melt quickly. I just don't want it to get too hot, because then our chocolate may overcook, which we want to avoid. So just taking up the spatula, begin to just kind of give it a bit of attention. Make sure that it's got a bit of a melt on. Where's my paper towel gone? Can I have one more paper? I forgot a tea towel. Really organised today, wasn't I? Oh, could I have a tea towel instead? I don't want to burn my fingers. So the trick when you're melting chocolate, as I was saying, is that you want to make sure, firstly, that the water is not touching the base of the pot, because it's going to get too hot. We're actually using steam to melt it, because the thing about chocolate, and this, by the way, is called a bain-marie, so you're doing this over a pot of water. And the thing about chocolate that we all know is that chocolate doesn't require a lot of heat to melt. Hence why when you put a piece of gorgeous dark chocolate into your mouth, it melts very easily. All you got to do is apply pressure with your tongue. You don't even have to chew, and it will naturally begin to melt. So that is, thank you, Coco, that is one of the important things to remember with chocolate. It doesn't need much heat to melt. If we apply too much heat to it, like if I was to put that chocolate directly into the base of that pot, it'll get way too hot, and then it would burn, and then it would go hard. And of course what we want is what you can see happening inside of my pan or my bowl right now, is we've got a lovely melt going on. I'm actually going to turn that cooktop off now. I don't need it to be on any longer. And it's noisy, so I'm going to get rid of it. Because there's enough heat that is already trapped inside underneath the bowl that chocolate is going to stay nice and melted. So you're wanting it to be liquid, and depending on the type of chocolate that you purchase, it will behave maybe slightly differently to mine. So as long as it's melted, that's what we want. If there's a few lumps in there, don't be too concerned, but you want to have a nice little melt going on, and I'm pretty happy with the results there. So back to our eggs. We're going to start off with the whites. And what we want to do with the whites is we want to create a bit of a meringue. Remember, there's no gluten in here, there's no baking powder to give it a lift, and we are making a cake. So we do need it to have a bit of a rise. So the way that we do that is by taking up our whisk onto fast and bring it all together. Now ideally when you're doing this, you are making sure that your eggs are at room temperature. You're going to get better whites puffing up. I'm going to go turbo. Ready? Now, if you're wondering, you can do this by hand with a whisk. It just takes a bit of time and a bit of muscle power. And what we are looking for, right now, this stage that we have with our whites is frothy, basically. We need it to be a lot stiffer than that. You can kind of see it starting to really fluff up now, which is perfect. It's almost quadrupled in size, which is again perfect. But what we're really looking for, so that we know that these whites are stiff enough, is when you remove the whisk from the whites, it kind of leaves a trail in the whites. That is the ideal scenario. We've probably got a little bit longer to go. I'm really starting to see those trails being left now. And if I just give it a bit of a stir, you can kind of see that I have peaks, known as stiff peaks. I have peaks coming out of my whites. I'm just going to take it just maybe another 20 to 30 seconds longer. Yep, looking good. Loving it. Okie dokie, happy with that now. You can see I've actually got quite a bit of peak happening. It's even on the top of my whisk there, and even if I give it a shake, it holds on. That is the texture that you are looking for when it comes to your whites. And really, considering we've only got 2 ingredients in this cake, we have to make sure we get those 2 ingredients right, of course. So of course we've got chocolate that's melted and it's soft. We have whites that are whipped. All we need to do now is move on to the yolk portion, give them a bit of a whisk together, and then we're going to incorporate the melted chocolate. Hence why I needed a tea towel, because it might be a little bit hot. So I'm just going to add in just a small spoon to begin with. Mix that together. Lovely. I'm going to add a little bit more of that chocolate. And keep on whisking. Now I told you guys this is easy. I wasn't fibbing. This is like ridiculously easy. It's so easy, in fact. I recently prepared this recipe for a cooking show on SBS, and pretty much the entire crew could not believe that I just cooked a cake using basically 2 ingredients, and you are going to be probably in that camp too once you make this yourself, and I hope you do. It is fabulous. So don't want to waste anything, that's why I'm doing that. Don't want to waste anything, but I'll come back to that whisk in a second. Now get rid of the book. You can go there for now. Over to our whites. We just need to now introduce the whites to the chocolate mixture. I do that by starting off with just 1 spoon. This is literally the introduction phase. And when it comes to introducing the chocolate to the whites, you need to put just a bit in to start. And what I'm doing here now is I'm just loosening up the mixture a little bit. Because if I try to fold the whites in, which is a very important technique that we're going to be doing here, is folding. If I try to fold the whites in now, the mixture wouldn't be quite loose enough. So 1 little bit there, I'm going to just add a little bit more, just to get it to be a little bit looser. You can see I'm being a little bit rough. I'm not really folding, I'm being a little bit rough, which you can when you first do the introduction. You can be a little bit rough. You need to start being a little bit gentle when we start to incorporate more of the whites, which we're going to do now. Okay, where is my, there it is. Don't want to waste anything. Scrape it on down. Alright, let's now get to the bigger introduction. So a couple of spoons there. And of course, as I was saying before, this recipe is enough for 2. So this is a recipe for 2, and that's why I think it's really romantic. But if you double it, then you get to feed it to more people. So there is nothing, please don't think you just have to make a cake for 2. You can actually double the recipe, same exact technique, nothing changes, except you just cook a little bit longer. So I'm folding gently now. I'm going to add the remainder of those whites into the bowl there. Scrape it on down so we don't waste any. When you're only using 2 ingredients, you don't want to waste any of those 2 ingredients. You got to make sure you put it all in there. So the secret really is here, how well you've whipped your whites so they're nice and stiff. That's not secret number 1. And secret number 2 is making sure you've got a good quality chocolate. And once you've got those 2 elements down, you're going to have a very successful cake. Okay, so folding gently. We don't want to knock the air out of the whites, because it's that air that we incorporated into the mix when we were whisking it to stiff peaks. It is that air that is going to get the wonderful rise for us when our cake cooks. So you will notice here that the first thing I'm not doing is I'm not fully incorporating the mix, because if I continue to work at it, I will continue to knock air out. I don't want to do that, so I'm actually going to stop there. It's okay to have bubbles of egg white and not to be perfectly mixed, and it kind of looks a little bit marbled when it's cooked, which is really nice. So grab yourself up a tin. I am using a 6-inch tin, so it's quite a small one. If Cookie's going to tell me what 6 inches is in centimeters, I'd be really happy. So 6-inch tin, nice and small, fully lined, of course. Very important that our tin is fully lined there, and then you just want to take your mixture and plop it in. And by fully lined, I mean top and bottom. Top and bottom.
15.2 centimeters.
So it's a 15 centimeter cake tin. And I always like doing things in smaller cake tins, because rather than having a low flat cake, I always like it when it's got a bit of height to it. So sort of short and squat with a bit of height always looks really, really good. So plopping that in, I'm going to go back to my spatula. My absolute best friend in the kitchen is, I have so many spatulas because I just cannot live without them, because they are so incredibly handy to make sure that we get all of the mixture out of the bowl, much to the horror of anyone who may be really into licking the bowl. It's a bit hard when you've got a spatula around the kitchen. All right, just gently touching the top, just to flatten it down just a little bit, not too much, right? Remember, you don't want to knock the air out. So that is done, and I know you're looking at that now going, that's a pretty short looking cake. Take my word for it, it is going to be very impressive once it's cooked. So once you've got your cake in your tin, you want to pop off to the oven. The oven is, I have my oven preset on 160 degrees Celsius, which is 320 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is going to bake in the oven for between 25 to 35 minutes. I'll see you very soon. I know, right? Can you believe it? Look at that. That is our cake. 2 ingredients is all it took to get this. Now, my cake was in the oven for 35 minutes. I kept on checking it. And the way to tell if your cake is ready is just using just your finger. Just sort of pop your finger onto the top there, and it should have a bit of pressure. It should be firm on top. You can also use a skewer, insert the skewer into the middle of the cake, and when you pull it out, there should be just a couple of small little crumbs attached to the cake. But it is literally done. How amazing. So allow it to sit in the cake tin for around about half an hour, and then turn it out onto a wire rack and let it, or allow it to cool completely. So that's what you want to do with your cake. Obviously our cake has been cooled completely, because now we're going to talk about some of the fabulous ways that you can decorate the top of your cake. Now, if you didn't want to decorate it, slice into it, eat. Like, seriously, you could totally do that. But if you want to be a little bit fancy, and I hope you do want to be a little bit fancy, you might want to add a few toppings to the top of your cake and really make it quite the celebration cake. And the reason why I'm hoping that you do is because our competition, I like to run a competition for Cook the Book. So if you'd like to win your own copy of Treat Yourself Healthy, and it's going to be signed by me, personally signed by me for you, all you need to do is to enter our weekly competition. And this week the competition is bake yourself up our 2-ingredient chocolate cake, and then show me how awesome you can decorate the top of your cake. The best decorated cake, or whatever you decide to use for the top of your decoration, will go in the drawer to win a signed copy of my cookbook, Treat Yourself Healthy, and we'll send that straight to your house. Isn't that nice? We'll send it out to you. If you've already got your copy, then you can also nominate someone you'd like to gift it to as well. So that is this week's competition. All you need to do is hashtag Treat Yourself Healthy, so we can find it, throw it up on Facebook, throw it up on modkai.com, which is our recipe sharing platform, and you can also put it on Instagram as well. Just remember to add that hashtag Treat Yourself Healthy so we can find your amazing creation. All right, what am I going to do for my amazing creation? So the first thing is I need a bowl, and it needs to be clean, and there is one right there. Because what I'm going to do is really simple. I hope you guys are a little bit more creative, but I just want to show you the possibilities. I mean, first thing that you could do is you could literally dust it with a little bit of, raw cacao powder, nice and bitter, you could just leave it like that. But let's be honest, that's not that creative. You could also dust it with a bit of our wonderful pure as inulin powder. Again, lovely, bit of snow on top, but not that creative. What I would like to suggest is you start thinking outside the square a little bit. I'm going to be putting some coconut cream, whipped coconut cream, onto mine. And the way that you can get lovely whipped coconut cream, so it acts like whipped cream but obviously dairy free, is you take your can of coconut cream, you leave it in the fridge overnight or in the freezer for a couple of hours if you run out of time. And what happens when that can has been left in the fridge is, oh look at that, I'm struggling to get it out, it's so lovely and thick. What happens is that the hard stuff, the real thick stuff rises to the top of the can and the watery stuff goes to the bottom. So what you're able to do, look at that, this is from one can, what you're able to do is you can extract all of the cream, the thickened cream from the can, and I've got a little bit of liquid in there, I don't know if you can see that, a little bit of liquid in there. Save that, don't throw that away, that is really good in curries. So that's a really nice way to add a little bit of coconut liquid, which is less thick, to curries and soups and stuff like that. So don't throw that can away. Now depending on the can that you choose will determine how much of the cream you're actually able to extract. As you can see, I got a serious amount of cream from that can. I'm really impressed actually how much I was able to extract from it. Sometimes I don't get as much. This is a very good can and it was just literally left in the fridge overnight. So I'm not even going to need to whip that up because it's really thick. But if your cream is not as thick as mine, what you can do is definitely get yourself a whisk, ideally one that's not covered in chocolate. Get yourself a whisk and then whisk it through, get rid of some of the lumps in there. You can totally do that. But I'm going to be sweetening mine with our pure as inulin powder because of course it's a prebiotic dietary fiber. Tastes like candy floss, so it's really delicious. Just a couple of tablespoons is all you need in there, a little bit more for luck, of our fairy floss like inulin powder. That is going to go in. You could also add a little bit of vanilla extract, pure vanilla extract can go in there as well, and just mix that through and you've literally made dairy-free whipped cream now out of coconut cream, which is just wonderful. So you want to take that and we're just going to start by, oh, you know what I should do before yeah, totally, never thought of that. Alright, transfer it to a cake platter. So I'm just going to plonk, oh my gosh, I'm so excited by this. This is so cool. And this is such a good little trick to know that, you can still have a wonderful creamy substance made out of coconut cream and it still feels like such a treat. It's such a decadent little treat. So that is on there. I'm also going to add some berries. See, I told you I wasn't being that creative. You can be so much more creative than me. But I'm going to be adding some fresh berries because it is starting to get really into berry season here now in Australia. And we do have the most amazing selection of berries grown all locally, which is wonderful. I have these gorgeous organic blueberries, which I like to call brain berries because they're so good for our brain health. So I'll pop some of those on there. Another great thing about berries as well is they are a low sugar fruit, so they have low naturally occurring levels of fructose. So if your goal is weight loss, this is one of the best fruits that you can include into your diet because they are so low in naturally occurring fructose. Same with strawberries, same with raspberries. Berries really are a superfood, but blueberries have that added bonus of being really good for your brain health. So get into them, absolutely get into them. If they're fresh in your part of the world, get into them. If they're not, even if you have to go for the frozen variety, look, let's be honest, the frozen, when they freeze fruit, they actually freeze them in the height of their perfection. Oh, and they normally snap freeze them, so they still have a lot of nutrient quality to them, even if you can't get your hands on the fresh variety, go for the frozen ones and be confident that you're still getting a pretty decent product. So blueberries, berries, raspberries, you know, any type of berries you can get your hands on, they're really good for us. So just a few of my berries go on. See, already, just with a few berries, it suddenly looks very festive, doesn't it? It looks very celebratory. I really like it. It's amazing. And of course, it's going to taste really good too. So we're going to throw those on top. And I cannot wait to see your creations, by the way. I cannot wait to see what you guys are going to come up with when it comes to how you are going to be creating the topping of your cake. So we can, of course, now take that little bit of cocoa for bitterness. And remember, this chocolate is dark chocolate cake, so it's going to be full of antioxidants and polyphenols, which are so good for us. But I'm just gonna, I gotta finish it off with a bit of snow. I have to. I don't have a choice. My hand goes to my inulin jar automatically now to do this because yummy! That now looks absolutely phenomenal. So here it is for you guys, my 2-ingredient fabulous chocolate cake. I've topped it with a whipped sweetened coconut cream. I've got some fresh brainberries and strawberries on there and just a dusting of cocoa powder and inulin powder, and look what we have. We have created something, as I was saying, festive, celebratory, and quite simply sensational. So do not forget, you can enter the competition to win your own signed copy, personalized signed copy of Treat Yourself Healthy. All you have to do is make the cake, show me how creative you can be when it comes to the topping, and then share it on Facebook, share it on Modkai, share it on Instagram with the hashtag Treat Yourself Healthy. And you go into the weekly draw. I'll be announcing the winner next Sunday when we do our next Cook the Book. I'll be announcing the winner. You go in the draw to win yourself a personalised signed copy delivered to your door, probably even get there before Christmas if we're really lucky. So please join in, make your own cake, eat, you know, enjoy, love it. It is fabulous, it is wonderful. Thank you again for joining me here for another episode of Cook the Book. I look forward to spending more time with you back here in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen really, really soon. Be well, be safe, and see you next time. Bye.